Hello, my name is Andrew Fake. I'm a division director with Resourcing Tomorrow, and I'm delighted to be joined by, in advance of his appearance at our Hong Kong event on the 16th to 17th of April, Kevin McGilligan, who's the managing director of Australia for Franco Nevada. Great to go and have you today, Kevin.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. Great to be back here.
Kevin, for those who are unfamiliar, can you give us a bit of a background as to who Franco Nevada are and what you do?
Yeah, well, Franco Nevada's a Canadian-based company that specializes in uh, royalties and streams predominantly on precious metals and predominantly on gold. And Yeah, that's it. We invest in projects and try and earn a percentage off the production. Hope the project does well.
And of course, you've been probably the most successful royalty and streaming company over the last 20 or 30 years or so. And one of the things that's obviously happened in the last couple of years is the price of gold continues to rise. And with that, Australia's gold sector is projected to be the country's second most valuable export this year. How is the super cycle in pricing altering Franco-Nevada's appetite for new royalties in Australia compared to previous years?
I would say I don't think it's altered our appetite at all. We've always had a good appetite, especially in Australia. It's one of the great places where you have the rule of law to enforce contracts and lots of gold and a really good group of people to develop projects here. Yeah, our appetite here has always been good, regardless of the price of the commodity itself.
And I think probably linked to that, due to the success that you've been having, you've recently expanded your Perth team to specifically target junior mining developers. Historically, streaming deals were the end game for mature assets. Why is Franco-Nevada moving upstream now to provide foundational capital at the early development stages?
Well, I'd say, um, look, we've always in the precious metal space, we've always provided capital at all stages, to be honest. But the stuff that makes the headlines are big deals. So, even recently we did a fairly sizable deal here, which we might talk about in a minute. But the deal before that was a small one in the less than $10 million range. Doesn't make any headlines, but yeah, we're continuing to do large and small deals. It's just a question of which ones get a lot of attention in our quarterly or in our announcements. And as for adding a team, yes, we added a second person here in Perth, Matt Selby, who's got a long-term background in investment banking and broking, and so he knows the people and the projects. And yeah, we're just increasing our level of activity and the number of proposals we're getting out the door these days.
And of course, that leads on to, I guess, the major announcement that Franco Navarro have made this month, which is namely the $220 million Australian financing of the Bullabulling gold project. Can you just talk a little bit about that through in sort of like detail?
Yeah, sure. It's a project here in WA. It's been around for long time. It was a producer in the mid 1990s on a small scale. We actually bought a royalty on it back in 1999, a 1% royalty that covers about half the mine. And we've followed it over the years through a number of different owners. And recently, or not so recently, just over a year ago, they got a new owner, management team there that is moving the project forward. So we've been following it quite closely for the past 12 months, and only recently, yeah, struck this deal to increase our investment in the project significantly. I know it might seem that it's a bit early stage because it's a company that has a resource, um, and their pre-feasibility and reserve statement isn't going to be it's going to be out what, maybe 4 months from now, June, July this year, and bankable feasibility study this time next year or early next year. But because we know the project and because of the due diligence we've been able to do, and because of our familiarity with the area, we're quite confident that this is going to get built. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, we are. It may seem like we're making a big call right now, but we really like this one. So
Okay. And I think that another question that I was very keen on asking is moving back to the nature of streaming. Traditional debt and equity markets remain selective, and many juniors often still view streaming as expensive. How do you counter that argument that streaming permanently alters a project's economics, particularly in a high inflation environment where operating costs are already under pressure?
Yeah, look, we run into that every time we talk to people. And I would push back, or not push back. I would counter that on a very fundamental basis, in that all capital has a cost. Um, and the difference is, first of all, what is that cost of capital? And second of all, where does it appear in your financial statements? So I would argue that royalties and streams are generally the least expensive cost of capital, certainly less expensive than equity or issuing shares. Um, Issuing shares is almost, in most instances, the most expensive cost of capital. But where does it show up? It doesn't show up in your income statement. It shows up in your earnings per share and your dilution. So, because it doesn't show up as an expense in your income statement, some people seem to think it's free, and it certainly is not. And that could, and then you get me into a rant here about who we need to talk to about when we talk about royalty and stream financing. We get our best traction when we talk to the owners, like the actual, the big shareholders, the board of directors. They're much more conscious about where's our cost of capital, how are we moving forward, and they're usually keen to engage and look at proposals for royalty and stream financing on projects.
Franco Nevada has historically maintained a 70% precious metals mandate. Given
Mhm.
recent lithium and nickel volatility in Australia, is Franco Nevada looking to diversify into battery metal royalties as a hedge, or is gold and precious metals still the main anchor in your portfolio?
Well, yeah, gold and precious metals is still the main anchor, and you're right. That the 70% is not a hard line, but certainly as the mix, as our non-precious share of revenue grows, we become less keen on looking at non-gold deals. But right now, because of the increase in the gold price, our precious metals and silver prices and platinum prices, they're all the precious ones are doing well this year. Um, our non-precious or base metal share or oil and gas share, all the other stuff it's not much more than 10% now. So, gold, precious, platinum, it's 85, 90% of our revenue right now. So we got a good appetite for the non-gold stuff at the moment, which sometimes we don't have. And I think the two you mentioned there, lithium and nickel. Yeah, obvious lithium's a good long-term one. We've been for a number of years looking for good projects there. We and watch this space. Nothing's imminent, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did a sizable lithium deal in the future. And on the nickel side, nickel was beat up, and now it's showing some signs of life. We'll see. But one of the things we like stuff that's been beat up. So it's you like to feel that maybe you're buying at the bottom of the cycle for a change, and you can ride it all the way up. But you never know. Uh,
Yeah. Um, and then the last question is, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be speaking at a Resource in Tomorrow Hong Kong event. How do you see the role of Asian family offices and private credit evolving? Are they competitors to your royalty model, or are they potential co-investors in the deals that you're structuring?
Um, yeah, unlikely to be co-investors. We occasionally on a deal by deal basis, we'll look at partnering up with somebody. We find that our counterparties, the operators that we're dealing with, don't like the bidders to partner up. They want to keep it as competitive as possible, so they discourage that. Um, but certainly, in terms of who's in the mix when you're bidding for going through a bidding process with your proposals. At the larger end, there's only a handful of companies that are involved. You don't see, and certain, but at the medium and smaller size, yeah, there's some random people who pop up now and again, and but it's a question of whether or not they persist with it. So you never know. You never know. I could see a private office where they've had some success with a particular industry or a particular commodity, and they might go in and bid for a few and see what happens. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, we're really looking forward to seeing you once again at our Hong Kong event. That was Kevin McElligott, who's the Managing Director for Australia for Franco Nevada. Thank you for your time today, Kevin.
Thanks, Andrew. Always a pleasure.